I'm Sabrina Ciofi. I am a communication and marketing expert. I teach also in fashion school and universities, fashion publications, and all the argument related to my profession. I do art direction also. I started collecting magazines in the 90s. Collecting, I think, is a personal, very personal idea, because usually collecting is not an instinctive. So it's an instinctive act, but you don't do it because you want to collect. You start to put together things that you love, or things that for you has a meaning. That could be anything, could be flowers or magazines. So my idea of collecting, it wasn't an idea, because it started as to don't throw away pieces of reading or pictures or pages that as a kind of a big meaning for me. That's it. I don't know, honestly. It was is still a fact of instinct, because I travel, and when I moved, the things that follow me in my life were magazines and books and dresses and shoes. That's it. I do not have furniture. I'm not interested in, but for me, magazines as magazines have a meaning, so they were part of my life. When I rent a house, I looked for empty houses, because I create my house, my interior designs with piles, tons of magazines. My collection is I use actively my collection. I teach fashion publication at universities, so I'm used to flip through the pages of the magazines very often. I use it as an archive, and yeah, I would like during the years to have it better organized, and to have a library as a house, but it's not so easy to have it. But I packaged, and I managed that in a way that I could use, I could move it easily, and yes, I use a lot. Fashion is cyclical. I mean, so it's normal. I wear it I'm in fashion from 35 years, and I saw that we usually look back to create, to think about the present, and to create something for the future. And I remember when I started to work in a fashion publication for a magazine, and Jean-Paul Gaultier was the enfant terrible of fashion. He was referring very often to a costume period, to a period, to a specific ages or era of fashion. And the great things was that he was able to mix with the street fashion of the moment to create an idea of couture that was completely new. That's the reason why I always perceived magazines as like something serious. I started with the magazines like ID and The Face, because my interest was in the subcultures, what today we call subcultures, or street cultures. means all the matters related to youngsters, music, clubbing, street style, or street culture. So, and these two magazines were, I lived in Florence, and it wasn't so easy to find them. So that's the reason why I start to keep it and not to give it away, because for me were something important to see and to refer to. And so with the time passing the years, I started to buy different magazines. The matter has been for me the same. um, Fashion, but not the mainstream idea of fashion. And so I collect at the end magazines that were in this field, like Dutch, Purple, or Tank, or Self Service, all the magazines that started as independent magazines and as alternative publishing in fashion. Of course, today they are the mainstream. Hmm? They are not anymore, so they're still independent, but they're not so avant-garde like they were in the beginning. I organize it in pile. Every pile is a magazine, and they the easiest to reach is the oldest one. And I keep them in plastic paper, with tape, so I can see everything. I can see the number and the date and the month or the year. And if I sometimes I put together magazines, similar magazines. I mean, Days and Confused is with other magazines of the same interest area. Means Lowdowns, Liz Nation, or Bulgaria magazine. So other magazines that has the same approach to fashion. I started to buy it in the 90s. So in the 90s, you should go to the newsstands. And you have specific newsstands for international magazines. Means that even if Florence is an international city, so means with a lot of tourists or people, not Italian people living there, but so specific magazines are not frequently sold. So you should go in the right place, and the right place usually is or a particular newsstand or a bookstore, a bookshop specialized in fashion. In Florence, at the end of the 90s, opened a bookstore specialized in fashion, in international fashion publications. So you could find there from view on colors, so from the real specific and very technical magazines or publications to the more popular or monthly magazines, international, French, American, and yes, and English magazines mostly. Yeah. I don't know, honestly. I don't know. Because it's about what I like most. For example, I really like a lot Dazed. Jefferson Huck was able to develop the idea of fashion publication from a printed magazines that was born as an instinctive act, an independent declaration of freedom from the mainstream. And during the years, he was able, he with his team, with his ranking, with so not alone, but he was able to create a fashion publishing house that is not anymore fashion, that is still related with his roots, but is totally contemporary. So today, Days Digital is even more better than the publication, but the publication is still good. It's still a piece that you want to buy. So I think that the more precious project that I have is this in terms of what I love. Then yes, I'm very attached to the first issue of Purple and the first issue of, and one of the first issues of Self-Service. Is more the project that I respect than uh, one peculiar issue of a magazine. Yes, so I reflected a lot because next week I'm going to start the new courses, fashion publication courses, and of course every 6 months it changes because I have to update what fashion publishing means because it's changing fast as we live and as we deal with technology. I think that there is a problem today, especially in the mainstream. And when I say mainstream, as I say from magazines that were independent, but today are the mainstream. ID today is mainstream, as Vogue, US, UK, Italy are. And I see it's like if they were attached to a way of doing, of publishing, that it's too old and they're not able to skip and to move forward. And I find a lot of interesting publication on paper. Very, maybe not inherent to fashion, not fashion publications, but publications that use the approach that fashion publication have been or had to food or to cars, to different matters, different arguments. Of course, being a fashion professional and loving fashion, I do not find anymore. So it's a long time that I don't find something that makes me say, wow, okay, that's it. We see a lot of pictures every day. We flip through our smartphones, and when we produce magazines, we think that picture should look good on the smartphone, and that's would be a problem. But I do so. So I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I stopped to buy magazines like before. So like before means that 10 years ago, every month I was buying magazines. I were running to the newsstands to have the new issue and to flip through and to have it, read it. And it's a thing that I don't do anymore. Yeah, I buy, but I do not have this that I'm not so thirsty. I'm not so so passionate anymore.